Thank you, Vicky and Katie. I'm so excited to be here. Okay, so today's topic is success for all learners through equity. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Let's get started. Let me make sure that I can move the slides. Okay. Whoops. I'm sorry, I'm struggling with the location. Okay, here we go. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, great. So tell us a little bit about you. We'd like to know who's in the room. Please look at the poll questions and let us know what your role is in your agency. And if you haven't done so already, please type in your name and agency in the chat as well. And if you'd like, please share one thing that is unique about you while we answer some of the poll questions. And also, while we wait for everyone to respond, let me tell you a little bit more about myself. So I am a coordinator now, but I taught ESL for 12 years. And I was born and raised in Japan and moved to the United States as an adult. I'm an immigrant, first generation college graduate, and working mother, working student. And I certainly understand, all the challenges that some of our students face. And this topic is really close to my heart because I am here because of the support and opportunities that I was given. And I would like to contribute to, the changes that will allow all our students to have the same opportunities that I received. So anyways, let's see. Oh, I see that many of you are teachers, administrators, and we have office staff, some counselors. We have a balanced, I guess, audience today. That's great. Katie, anything in the chat that we would like to share or?
Right now, they're just introductions, but if y'all have any questions during the webinar, feel free to post them in the chat and I will type an answer to you while Sachi is presenting.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so let's, I'm gonna end the poll and share results. So it looks like a lot of you are teachers, and as I said, yeah, all types of participants today. That's great. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna stop share. Okay, so let's get started. Today's agenda, we are gonna talk about equity and inclusion, and we're gonna talk about some definitions and go over cultural competence, and we're going to identify some barriers. Here are our objectives for today's session. Participants will be able to describe the concept of equity in the context of empowering students and view policies and procedures through an equity lens. So those are today's objectives. And I would like to let you know that this webinar is an introduction to a 15-hour CalPro community of practice on equity, and all the topics that will be addressed, we'll be talking about today will be addressed more deeply in the COP, and the COP is designed for teams that include administrators, instructors, and front office and support staff. So please sign up as a team through the link in the chat, I believe was put in the chat now. And I hope many of you join the COP. All right. So the topics we're talking about today can be challenging and emotional. So please take a minute to look over the norms that we established. Okay, Are we good to move forward? All right, so let's get started. Equity and inclusion. Here is a definition of equity. Educational equity is achieved when all students receive the resources, opportunities, skills, and knowledge they need to succeed in our democratic society. Ultimately, building a more equitable educational environment is about student empowerment and making sure all students have what they need to succeed in the classroom and beyond. And you might have seen this picture before. This picture gives you a visual of the two similar but different, quite different concepts. You can see that equality, everyone has the same support, but equity, everyone is able to, get to the level where they can see the game, but they get different, the support that they need to do so. And this picture adds another dimension. This kind of shows you how level the playing field really is in this country, where some people have so much more than others. And we wanted to connect equity to adult education. This chart is from 2015, but it shows that California had the highest poverty rate of any state. And still in 2018, California had the highest poverty rate of any US state, tied with Florida and Louisiana. And many of our students are living in poverty along with other challenges that may need equitable solutions so that they can pursue their education goals. When we get our students on the path to a family sustaining career, we impact poverty, and it is particularly important that we succeed in this population is disproportionately impacted by COVID-19, as many of you know. Okay, so we created two lists, and the vast majority of the students in adult ed are from various marginalized groups like racial and ethnic minorities, immigrants, older adults, and others. And it is crucial that we have equitable practices in place. And the two lists that we created are things that we already sort of do well, and areas for equity improvement. So things we do well are, we welcome all students, and we don't charge for classes. Our classes are open and free. And we make conscious effort to avoid racism and sexism. And we appreciate different cultures. And however, there are some areas that we can improve, that some areas are equal goal setting process for all students, and also tracking data on transition to post-secondary and work by gender, age, and ethnicity. So based on the areas of improvement we talked about, I will show you a few examples of equity targets that we may adopt. And I'm going to ask you a few questions about the goals. If you think the answer is yes, please use your virtual hand gestures to give us a thumbs up or yes. If you think the answer is no, give us the thumbs down or no. You might need to click on the participant icon on the bottom of your screen to use the feature. Okay, let's take a look at first example goal. Increase the percentage of African American students referred to the pharmacy technician IET class by 25%. Is this measurable? Yes or no? think somebody has a question maybe. I'm sorry, I can't see the reactions. Katie or Vicky, let me know. Are we seeing any thumbs up or thumbs down? Let me open up participants.
We are indeed.
Oh, great. And does this address a specific problem? It is specific, isn't it? And it is measurable. Okay, how about this one? Decrease the amount of time needed to complete the office careers pathway by 10 weeks. Is this measurable? Yes or no? And yeah, it's very, it is measurable. It's 10 weeks, very specific. And does this mention any strategies? Not really for this one, right? But it is specific and measurable. What about this one? Ensure by observation that through specific teacher strategies, all cultural and racial groups in particular class are responding to discussions in proportion to their numbers. Is this measurable? Does this address a specific problem? Does this mention strategies? This one does mention specific teacher strategies, right? Okay.
Getting a few thumbs down on that one.
Oh, I see. It is sort of vague, but it mentions using specific teacher strategies. We're going to probably talk about some of the strategies that we could adopt in the classroom later on. Okay, so let's talk about inclusion. Inclusion is achieved by setting a basic minimum standard for education that is shared by all students, regardless of background, personal characteristics, or location, and not tracking some students. Inclusion means making people from all backgrounds feel welcome, and also implies that we want to include all students in the standards that we teach to. Some may need more scaffolding and support than others, and it is our job to provide that. So let's do another poll. There are 3 questions, and reflect on, well, please respond to the poll, and let's reflect on the idea of inclusion. Inclusion is related to rigor of instruction and the understanding that rigorous instruction is for everyone. So what standards support increasing rigor in instruction? I'm sure you're familiar with all these terms: CCRS, College and Career Readiness Standards, ELPS, English Language Proficiency Standards, or any others that you use in your classrooms. And are these standards used in your program? Do you think the above standards are applied to all students? Let's take a few minutes, well, just a minute maybe. Okay, we're getting votes. Okay, it looks like over 50% voted, so we're gonna move on. I'm gonna share the results. So 75% of you said CCRS and 64% ELPS. ELPS will probably apply only to, you know, if you have any English language learners in your classroom. I'm curious what other standards you're using. If you could, you know, type in the chat if you're using any other standards, that would be great. Most of you said yes, those standards are used in your program, but some of you think maybe not, you know, apply to all of the students. Okay, let me stop sharing. And let me see if I can close this. Okay. So as we talked about, inclusion is related to rigor, and it is important that rigorous instruction is, you know, applied to everyone, not just for those who are going to college or for those with higher reading or math levels. To create an equitable playing field, everyone needs the supports that will help them to be successful in a rigorous classroom. So that's, you know, that's something that we can work on, you know, it looks like. Okay, and let's talk about this sort of a scenario that I certainly have come across. You know, maybe some of you have dealt with similar situations. So it goes, a teacher doesn't feel that the college and career readiness standards apply to her students. Her students aren't going to go on to college, and they already have jobs. But underneath that, she is concerned that if the class is hard, her students will stop coming and she will lose her job. The instructional leader has a conversation with her that, but that was not successful. So what is the best approach for the administrator or teacher leader to take with this teacher? If you have experience with this type of situation, please type in the chat, how did you handle this? Or do you have any suggestions? Katie, I'm sorry, I cannot open my chat. Oh, maybe I can. Let me see.
So Sachi, the chat will be at the top under more.
Okay. Somehow I can't seem to see it when my PowerPoint is going.
Sachi, you do have a raised hand.
Okay, where can I see that? Oh, Dominique?
So,
you have a question?
well, just that, you know, in this discussion here about what the instructional leader about those conversations, I would expect that a lot of us have to find that balance between providing a rigorous education and not alienating our students.
Exactly, yes, I completely agree. And that's where, you know, scaffolding and support comes in. When you think about the skills that college and career readiness standards address, like critical thinking, digital literacy, multimodal literacy, and other, you know, 21st century employability skills, they're not just for, you know, people who are going to college. These skills are relevant to all adults in our democratic society. You know, like parents helping kids. I had to learn how to use new, you know, technology for our kids now, and, you know, getting facts and correct information and making important decisions, and navigating the complex healthcare or financial or tax systems. These skills are for everyone, and I think, you know, we need to definitely incorporate those skills into our adult ed classrooms. However, you know, not everyone is ready for such rigorous instruction, then we need to provide scaffolding and support to those who need those. Okay, thank you so much.
And in the chat, Melissa's saying to acknowledge her concerns, start conversation in a positive way, coach her to come up with benefits to integrating CCRS for all. Got a couple others. Thomas says to appeal to the teacher's commitment to student well-being and note that the CCRS is built on research of what students need for long-term success. Lots of good comments in the chat.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to move on. Now we're going to talk about management competencies, self-assessment. Oops, I'm so sorry. In 2018, 5 equity competencies were added to the 8 domains in the management competencies developed by CalPro. And if you're interested, you can take the self-assessment online, I believe, on CalPro's website. And let's take a look at the 5 equity competencies. So we'll go over 5, and then we'll look at one of the competencies more in depth later. As we look at these competency items, please think about what your agency is doing already and what you think you can improve. And let's see. And if you're interested, you may go through the entire assessment on the link listed at the later time. So number 1, promote an environment that values and appreciates linguistic differences. And 2 is promote organization-wide culturally responsive policies and practices. Does your agency offer promotional materials in many languages, for example, or observe Cultural Heritage Month, or do teachers use diversity of learners' home languages or cultures and prior learning experiences as a resource for learning? Those are some of the things you can do. And number 3, establish systemic supports for historically underserved students or non-traditional students and students with disabilities, English language learners, and LGBTQs to achieve access and success. So does your agency offer or have equitable access to wraparound services, policies which support working students, pathways that are not closed off to ELLs or ABE, adult basic? And do you have partnerships with one-stop centers or CBOs and other agencies that offer some of those supports like childcare, mental health treatment, or food bank? And do you have gender neutral and accessible bathrooms, or do you have a community and resources dedicated to the disproportionately impacted student populations? You know, some community colleges might have EOPS, extended opportunity programs and services, or disability services and programs for students, or, you know, Center for Equity and Social Justice, or Umoja. You know, what kind of services and wraparound supports do you offer? And number 4, uphold and communicate an organizational belief that all students are capable of success and that their individual identity and agency is affirmed and valued. So what does your agency's mission statement or course syllabus say? Whoops, I'm sorry, it did something funky. Okay, and does it reflect the belief in your practice? And do you expect and communicate the same high standards to all students? Let's see, the last one is to analyze structural aspects of curriculum and identify barriers to learning and opportunities to incorporate diverse perspectives and experiences. So yeah, do you offer formative assessments and constructive feedback? Do you tailor your feedback based on an understanding of linguistic, cultural, and ability differences? Do you present information in different ways and offer varied methods for students to show their learning? Are you familiar with the for example, universal design for learning principles, or do you choose classroom materials and activities that respect learners' identities as individuals? So those are the questions you can ask. And let's look at cultural competence a little bit deeper here. That was part of equity number 2. So take a moment to read the definition of cultural competence here, and what words jump out at you. Type the words or phrases that stood out to you in the chat, please. And I'll give you a minute or so to read and type. And Katie, if you could help me with the chat, I still cannot see the chat for some reason.
Sure, and just to repeat, she asked to type words into the chat that jump out at you from what's on the screen right now. So we're seeing a lot of awareness, celebrating, tapestry, within group differences, ability to understand within the group differences. Again, a lot of awareness, celebrating, and tapestry.
Great. So these are the words and phrases in underlined words we thought were important and relevant. But I think everyone got great ideas here. Okay, so now in order to recognize and create culturally responsive policies and practices, we need to understand cultural competence. And this you can see in the chart. The continuum is taken from a UC San Diego course for managers, and we're going to look at each of the items on the continuum. So to the far left, the least culturally competent attitude is called cultural destructiveness. For example, characterizing a whole nationality as rapists and murderers would be considered culturally destructive. And this, let's see, one step from that is cultural incapacity. This represents a belief in the superiority of the dominant group, and often have an unrealistic fear of those from the so-called lesser groups. The paternalistic attitude of I know better than you do, and you know on what you need and what you should do. And this is an attitude for us teachers and educators to watch out for. Next is cultural blindness, the belief that color and culture make no difference and that all people are the same. And sometimes people think that the most equitable attitude is to be color blind, but actually color, race, and ethnicity matter and define a lot of things about ourselves. So denying it is denying part of the person's self. And next is cultural pre-competence. This is where pretty much everyone with good intentions starts out. We want to do the right thing and be sensitive to culture, but we aren't sure how to do it yet. Cultural competence is next. As we become more culturally competent, we understand that culture makes a difference and has to be acknowledged and respected. And we continuously make an effort to expand our understanding of culture. And then the last, cultural proficiency, holding culture in high esteem, seeking to add to the knowledge base of culturally competent practice and advocating for culturally competent practice in all arenas. These individuals are ones who do research, write books, do training like this, and add to the knowledge of others about culture and the dynamics of difference. They are advocates for cultural competence. So there are 6 stages in the continuum. Okay, let's be sure that we have a common understanding of what a culturally responsive policy is. And I am going to show you a few examples and ask you a few questions. And if you, again, if you think the answer is yes, please use your thumbs up or yes, virtual nonverbal communication features. And if you think the answer is no, please give us the thumbs down or no. And are you ready? Okay, so when a teacher expresses sympathy over failure, lavishes praise for completing a simple task, or offers unsolicited help, what do you think? Is this culturally responsive? It actually says this may send unintended messages of low expectations. So that's a no. But instead, communicate clear expectations, provide praise when expectations are met. So that would be a thumbs up. The first part is thumbs down. Okay, how about next one? Example 2, have a flyer that introduces the school or program in as many languages as possible, so that those speaking languages other than English feel immediately welcome. What do you think? Is this equitable? Is it inclusive? Yes, the flyer is welcoming people from many different languages, and yes, it's inclusive if everyone feels welcome to enroll. Okay, last example here. Provide learning within the context of culture. Some cultures may value student cooperation and collaboration, while students from other cultures prefer to work independently. Teachers can provide a mix of learning approaches so that all students work in their comfort zone, at least some of the time. What do you think? Is this equitable? Is this inclusive? It is equitable because the teacher is providing activities that address a variety of learning preferences. It is a tricky one because, you know, we focus on collaboration and cooperation, but some people from different cultures, you know, I have students who prefer to work independently. So I think it's great to, you know, offer a variety. And then is it inclusive? Yes, because everyone will have some activities that are more comfortable for them and some that make them stretch their comfort zone. Okay, so any questions so far? Anything in the chat, or everything's okay?
No question. Dominique did put a book recommendation in the chat. If anyone else has other recommendations, feel free to send those along. Those are great.
Wonderful, thank you, Dominique. Okay, okay, now another poll. So think about where you are on the continuum right now. We talked about the 6 stages, and take a minute to make a mental note now. And once the poll pops up, please answer where you think you are and also where you would place your program. And your answers will be anonymous here. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of pre-competence, cultural competence. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, it looks like the movement sort of stopped after about 55% of votes are in. Let me stop it here and share the results. So many of you feel that you are in the cultural competence stage, and but your programs, it varies. Pre-competence or competence, I think, are more common, it looks like. Yeah, so yeah, we still have work to do, and I think that's okay. Important part is that we acknowledge and recognize where we are, and self-reflect. Okay, let me stop share. Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, now let's take a look at some of the barriers or unintentional yet harmful actions we need to look out for. And let's see. So implicit bias is one. We all have implicit bias, and what it is the attitudes or beliefs we have about a person or a group on an unconscious level. And bias is the preference for one person or thing over another. Implicit bias occurs when that preference is not conscious but influences behavior. And the mind processes many more bits of information unconsciously than consciously. That is interesting, right? And the mind has blind spots. We all have implicit bias and beliefs we learned from our parents, our caregivers, school friends, or from TV or magazines. And that is impossible to be aware of them all, but the first step to overcoming implicit bias is to work on becoming aware of it. And let's have a little activity here. Let's try an activity. I would like everyone to close your eyes and listen to the story and visualize the scenes in your mind. Are you ready? Okay, so you're going to a technology conference. You've been excited for weeks to attend this conference. The day has come for you to travel. COVID is over, you're traveling, and traffic is backed up because of an accident. A police officer waves you through traffic, and then you get to the airport. You're running late, but you don't need to check any bags. You run from the parking garage to security. You get through security and you run to your gate. You barely make it on the flight before the doors are closed behind you. As you enter, oops, I'm sorry. Okay, as you enter the plane, a pilot comes out and says, "Hi, you just made it." You go to your seat and relieved, and you have an enjoyable flight. That night, you go to dinner and have the best food you've ever had in a long time, maybe ever. While enjoying your meal, you notice a couple celebrating their wedding anniversary. The next morning, you go to the conference, very excited to see and hear the keynote speaker. As they step on stage, the entire crowd erupts with shouting and excitement. Open your eyes. So picture the police officer in the story who waved you through the traffic. Did the police officer in your imagination look like this? Now picture the pilot who greeted you on the plane. Remember, you barely made it, but did the pilot look like this in your story? Picture the couple celebrating a wedding anniversary. Did they look like this? And finally, picture the keynote speaker at the conference. Did the person look like this? We all have this idea of what certain things should look like, you know, from our past experiences or through the media exposure, things like that. So unconsciously, we process information and we kind of have this image of certain things. So that's sort of how implicit bias works sometimes. So we simply are not and cannot be all-knowing and completely objective. Our understanding and views of the world are partial and reflect the circumstances of our particular lives. This is the word from Dr. Claude Steele, who wrote Whistling Vivaldi. So this is from his book. So bias is unavoidable, but it can be overcome. We can overcome implicit bias, but it takes conscious effort. First, becoming aware of our biases is the first step, then working to acknowledge and overcome them. That's what we can do. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed the story. And when I first did this was a surprise to me. So I hope you had kind of similar experience with this, but we can start working on overcoming our implicit bias. Okay, another common obstacle or harmful action to learning is microaggression. And microaggression is simply a statement or action made regarding some aspect of an individual's identity. That can be their speech, their skin tone, their name, hair, accent, things of that nature, which makes the individual feel insulted or slighted. And it is important to note that microaggressions are often not intentional and can be a result of someone not realizing that the statement or question is offensive. So I would like to bring up some examples. For example, I sometimes get this, having this foreign name, but if somebody says, I'm not even going to attempt your name, I'll just butcher it. This sends the message that you don't care enough about the individual to bother learning the correct pronunciation of their name, which is a major part of an individual's identity, right? So it seems innocent, but it is harmful. And another question might be, what are you? Asking questions like this implies a sense of otherness to the individual being asked, as in, you are not like me, what are you? So that's an example of microaggression. Last example is, I want to, for example, for me, like, I don't see you as an Asian person or a Japanese person. In this case, it would be, I don't see you as, you know, Asian person, Japanese person, and that's part of who I am, my culture, my heritage, and implying that you don't see that is, you know, it feels like there's something wrong with being seen as a specific race or ethnicity. So these are some of the examples of microaggressions. And let's see. So I have one last activity for us to do together, and it relates to, you know, the cultural competency that we looked at, and also microaggressions and some harmful obstacles. So look at the comments in the next 3 slides and determine or think about where on the cultural competency continuum do you think the comment or action is. and then type your answers in the chat, please. And think of a more culturally competent action or response as well. Ready? So the first one is complimenting a native English speaking student on how articulate they are. What do you think about that?
And then I ran, but then I landed on the foot where it hurt a little bit, and now it hurts. But Ian, will you try to go the fastest? Because tomorrow we don't have school, so I just want to get done with this day, right?
Okay. Katie, are chats coming in, or I'm so sorry. If
Yes, no, it's okay. I'm seeing a lot of folks saying that this is cultural destructiveness, and a couple for incapacity.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, so we thought this was, cultural incapacity. Telling someone who isn't an English language learner, you're so articulate, isn't really a compliment. And, although it's well-meaning, it implies that the person was not expected to be articulate in the first place. And that is offensive. Right. Instead, your feedback can be more specific about specific things that they did or they said. Maybe that's a better way to handle this. How about this one? I don't know if I'd wear my hair that way for the interview. The interviewer might think it's unprofessional. Have you considered straightening it? What do you think about this one?
Dominique says, oh, heck no. A lot of cultural destructiveness. That seems to be the overwhelming majority.
I see. Yes.
Just insensitive was one of
Right.
the answers.
This represents a belief in the superiority of the dominant group, right? And this forces the values and behaviors of the dominant group onto everyone. So our CalPro's answer was actually cultural incapacity, but it is not good. Okay, last one. Why are you people always so loud? Where are we? Where is this on the continuum?
Again, the majority are saying destructiveness.
Yes, yes. Cultural destructiveness. When you say you people and characterize an entire group in a negative way, it is destructive to the culture and to individual within the culture, right? And instead, you can simply ask the person to lower the volume or talk more quietly. You don't have to make it about a certain group. Okay, so we did it. All right, we made it to the wrap-up section. So let's reflect on what we covered today. We talked about equity and inclusion. We talked about cultural competence continuum. And we talk about a belief that all students are capable of success. And the question I have for you is, how can you apply this information back at your program site? You can think about it and put your answers in the chat, or do we have time to have someone, a volunteer, to share their answer here?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, great. If you would like to raise your virtual hands. maybe Vicky can help unmute you or. Any volunteers?
No hands raised at the moment.
Hi, yes,
And-
I'm Rosie Sandoval. I'm here from Hacienda La Puente. Yeah, can you hear me? I'm here from Hacienda La Puente Adult Ed. And yeah, we have been talking a lot about equity here at Hacienda La Puente Adult Ed. And we do plan to provide an equity training through CalPro for our teachers. I should say some of our teachers, we have limited numbers. And with our consortium too, which I believe Ryan Whetstone is in this webinar today. So he's one of our collaborators, our leaders. And yeah, all of this is, I think, so important because as you say, we have biases and both students that interact with other adult students as well as teachers or administrators. I think it's important to review and refresh and just kind of talk about how sometimes we can be insensitive when we're not meaning to be. So I think this is a very good webinar, and I'm so grateful that you are providing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe one more person or? I see that 2 participants raised hand. I can't tell who.
Hi, my name is Zahra Denisian. I also want to thank you for your training. I just, in the chat, I put in from your presentation, what really stuck to my mind was that very visual you had, that equality and equity are not the same. And in fact, sometimes you have to give a lot more to get equal results to the person that needs more. And it was that picture of the younger child needing more steps to be able to see the same, and the result being seeing the same. So to me, that really says what we have to do as teachers is that sometimes you do intentionally have to give a little more to the group or the student in particular that really needs, either it's the language deficiency, because I'm teaching GED at Burbank Adult School, and I have to cover English, math, science, and social science. And you can tell language is a barrier. So I do have to spend more time on that even prior to teaching sections like math. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That picture tells you exactly, it's a great reminder, right?
Yes.
Thank you. Do we have time for one more person, or should we?
I think one more.
Okay.
Okay, so I have my hand raised, but if there's somebody else that wants to go, that's fine.
Go
Go
ahead.
for it.
Okay. So I work for Field Epic High School, and the majority of our teachers are Hispanic. They are bilingual. And one of the things that I want us to really start working with as I slowly move from teaching into admin is to help all of our teachers, not just the white teachers, uncover their biases and be able to explore that. Because even seeing my white students, I have not necessarily cultural biases the way we would think of as ethnicity, but I have socioeconomic biases. People have biases about accent. Oh, you're Southern, you're probably not too smart. You know, those kind of things. And I really want to work with our teachers to dig deep in the next couple of years and look at their biases, because the color of your skin does not change the fact that we all have biases.
So true. Yes, we all have biases, implicit or not. Yes, definitely. Thank you. Okay, thank you everyone so much. And if you have more comments, please, keep typing in the chat. We have a couple more minutes. And if you would like to, dig deeper, please join our future COP. And in our 15-hour COP, you will have a chance to go into each topic we covered in depth and also learn how to use data to advance equity at your agency. There's much more to do in the COP. So we hope to see you in one of the COPs this year. Our website and email information is on the screen. And please take a few minutes to complete the evaluation for today's session. I believe Vicky can put the link in the chat, or is it going to come in an email later?
Yep, it's in the chat. I'll post it again.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry I couldn't see the chat for some reason.
Thank you so much, Sachi, for doing that. I want to make a quick announcement because I see people in the chat asking for the PowerPoint and resources or whether or not this will be posted. The recording will be posted. The PowerPoint, however, will not be shared. It's just an introduction to what's contained in our module. If you are interested in participating in the module, I have posted the link into the chat, or you can email us and reach out. I know a few people who are on right now are already planning to host, so we're really excited. You can see our event calendar. If you're interested in participating, there are a couple of instances of this equity module coming up in this fall and winter, so we would love to have you participate.
All right. Well, thank you so much all for your hard work today. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Vicky, Katie, and Sudhi for all your support here.
Thank you, Sachi. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Sachi.
Thank you.